Hey YouTubers, so today I'm looking at a little video on a sub panel I installed. So this is the main panel, and up there on the right top breaker is 40 amps. That's what's feeding the sub panel out in the sheds. And then there's a few other little things here. We got a tandem breaker in here for outside receptacles around the house and the Christmas light circuit. So the one that's off there feeds a time clock, and we'll look at that in a minute. And the other one is receptacles that are hot all the time. You have to excuse my dog. Mufasa is upset because the neighbor's dog is out running free and he's not. So another little trick us electricians do is to save the label that we used when we were wiring everything from scratch and stick that back on the wire. So when you get all done, it makes it easier for you to trace and label the panel where everything's going. Now I got some still shots of the panel schedule and some of the wiring in the house, so you can look at that closer when we get to there. And then something up here, it's a little unusual. You probably don't see this very often, but I've got solar on my house, and I'll save that for another video. But that's where the solar line taps into the panel feed, and the power from the solar panels and inverter come into here and tap into the main feeders to feed into the house. And if the city power goes off, I've got a little receptacle underneath the inverter that allows you to plug in your refrigerator and lights and stuff. And during the daytime you can still have power if you got solar in your roof. That also is isolating this feed from coming into here during that time the power's off, so that alignment outside working on the transformer or something doesn't get shocked by my solar feed. The inverter automatically disconnects this coming into here, so there's no power coming into this panel here during the power outage. But like I said, I got a receptacle outside that I can plug stuff into that is hot during the day. And then at night, if you really need power, I got a generator, so everything's covered. Florida is a very hurricane prone state, so we don't install solar for hurricanes. We install solar to save on our electric bill. And my electric bill averages about $40 a month, and that includes garbage pickup and water. So you have a connection fee, it's like $13, your garbage bill, your water bill, and then whatever your solar panels don't overcome your usage, then you get a little charge for what you do use. And then if I use less than my solar panels make, I get credit for it, and that resets every year. So it's pretty cool, and we'll save that for another video. The concentration on our thoughts today is the installation of this sub panel that we put in for the sheds, and all the things that went along to install that. And of course the sheds are about 60 feet away from the house. Two sheds that I got, and one of them is a she shed. My wife has a craft itch, and she does all kind of different crafts and so forth, and The other one's the man cave on the right for all the stuff I do. But as you can see, that's a good ways from the house. You don't want to run extension cords and have stuff hanging in the air. So what we did here was we dug a ditch. So on the left is water feed coming into the house, one with the red valve, and the one on the right side is water going out to the sheds. My wife's got a sink in hers, so we ran the water back there at the same time we were putting pipes in this ditch. So that's schedule 40 regular PVC, and that lays in the ditch with the other pipes. So came out of the panel inside and went down below the panel and used a TLB that's mounted sideways there and fed that through the wall out to where we're at now and up into this junction box and then down into the ground. And this junction box has got a time clock in it, and time clock is for Christmas lights. That circuit you saw in there, 19B or 19A, is turned off right now because it's not Christmas, but when Christmas gets here we'll set the time and turn that breaker on, and this clock will be running, so Christmas lights will come on at 6 a.m. in the morning and shut off at 7:30, and then in the evening they'll come on about 5 p.m. and shut off around midnight, so they don't stay on all night, and they come back on in the morning when it's still dusk, and that makes for a very nice, easy, you don't have to worry about forgetting to turn your lights off and on, and it's all automatic. So this clock, when it's energized, feeds an outlet, and that outlet is over there near the front porch, the carport, and I'll feed all my Christmas lights from that location, a 20 amp circuit. And then this other outlet here on the side of the box is hot all the time, and that's that 19B breaker you saw in there that on the tandem two breakers is turned on right now. So this is hot all the time and used for a convenience outlet. Whenever you want to do something outside, you need power. So the other pipe here is a 3/4 inch PVC, gray kind of PVC that goes up into the attic, and Ethernet, hardwire Ethernet for the internet access is pulled into that pipe, and that's in the same ditch as the power feed for the sheds and the water line. So there's 3 pipes in that ditch, and that ditch leaves and goes underneath the fence here and goes over toward that fence to stay away from the middle of the yard, and it runs along that fence until we get close to the sheds, and then it 45s again and offsets over toward the sheds and comes up into the she shed, and the water line and the Ethernet and the power go to the sub panel in that she shed, and we'll look at that in a second when we get back there. The 4th pipe on the right there is an outlet on the corner of the house right over there, and a motion light above it, and a switch to bypass or overrun motion light, and another outlet is fed from that same spot, and it goes back by the front of the she shed, another convenience outlet that's hot all the time, and that's run in a separate ditch that was done originally, and that was the original feed for the sheds. And because we installed a kiln, which is like an oven, you melt clay or glass, not clay, you would harden clay if you're making, you know, things out of clay, or melting glass to make jewelry or something like that. And the kiln is a very high current draw, 120 volt, 25 amp circuit that would have overloaded this old feed. So the old feed got disconnected from the shed and relocated to just an outlet on the outside of the shed for convenience. And then the new feed that we ran in this ditch over by the fence goes into a sub panel, and then we're refeeding everything in the sheds from that sub panel. So the pipe on the left feeds the Christmas outlet. The pipe, the bigger one there with the T in it, is the feed from inside coming through the wall, feeding the circuits that we need for the Christmas and the convenience. And the sub panel power, which is number 8 American wire gauge, 2 hots, ground and a neutral, that are in that pipe going back to the sheds. That one that goes down in the ground. And the Ethernet, the third one, from up in the attic. And then the fourth one, the convenience outlets in the yard. So when we dug this ditch, we went about 2 feet down and ran along this fence line just far enough away you could dig and still cover your ditch up when you're done. And right about here we jogged over and went straight to the corner of the she shed. And you can see right there where we come out of the ground and go up into the she shed. And oh, I gotta show that. So in here, this is where that feed comes up and goes into this sub panel. I got some still shots of this so you can see it a little better for those that want to look at it closer. And we got some circuits in here that one feeds this shed and the lighting and other outlets that are in here. The second one, I think, feeds the kiln, which comes over to this outlet here. And the kiln is plugged into its own separate circuit outlet that requires that 120 volt. And this is the kiln here. And then she's got some microwaves that she does the same thing in. The microwave oven will also melt glass, but you have to use these special crucibles to do it in. They got some kind of coating inside the crucible that allows the microwave to create enough heat to actually melt glass. She's got 2 different sizes of those and 2 different microwaves to do that in. And over here you can see some of the stuff she's got for doing that kind of thing. And she also does paint pours and makes jewelry and makes cards, and there's some of the glass raw material she uses to make stuff with. And over here in the corner is a sink. Of course, when you're doing a paint pour, you make a mess, so you got to clean up your mess. And when I installed this sink, that water line comes in from the outside corner, so the water's running underneath the shed over to the outside corner back there, and comes through the wall. And then we just drain out into an upside down bucket outside. This just doesn't get used enough to go into a septic. And use some of that stuff you see in bathrooms or shower walls. It's sort of like a plastic material, and we screwed it down to the wall and the floor around the sink area just to help clean up easier. So if you do spill paint or something, it's easier to clean up if you make a mess. And that's what's that white stuff on the back of the sink is. So here's some of her paint, and we got LED lighting in here along with the accent lighting, and the last circuit in here that's got a wire on it is feeding over to the man cave shed, and then there's a spare breaker in there that allows us to hook something else up later on. So the Ethernet pipe comes up into this shed, and I brought one line of Ethernet out to both sheds, and there's a junction point here where we can unplug that blue one that's going over to the man cave shed. This is the one that's coming from the house underground, and it goes into a regular receptacle for Ethernet. And then this one goes back into another pipe that goes over to the man shed. And whenever she needs to use Ethernet out here, if she's wanting to watch YouTube on the internet or with the laptop or something, she can plug in to that outlet with this and unhook mine. And this is like just an extension for Ethernet. And of course she's got a big screen TV in here, so she can watch TV while she's working. And we put a digital antenna on the gable end of the barn there, so she can get real good reception and a whole bunch of channels for free. And that makes it nice for her while she's working. So on this shed, we brought that Ethernet and power up, jump between the two, and Ethernet's that blue cable there, and that goes over to my laptop, and then the power from that one breaker comes up into this outlet here, and from that outlet I've got a few things plugged in that feed plug strips along this countertop, and then the main feed for the lighting and the other receptacles in here is coming out of the top of that outlet, and that goes up into the ceiling area and feeds everything. So we got a regular switch for turning the lights on and off, another outlet there, we got an outlet back here in the corner hiding behind the toolboxes. We got plug strips all along the back of the shelving here on this main shelf where all my tools are and everything. And then we got another plug strip back here for the shipbuilding area. And of course there's the ship I've been working on, and we got an outlet on the end on that side and an outlet on the end on this side. And the way we did our lighting is we got lights everywhere, because you know when you're in a shed like this there's not good lighting, so we put lights everywhere. But to simplify it, because most of this stuff is plug and play, we just got a regular power cord on each fixture, and those power cords plug into two different outlets that are up in the ceiling, one there and one over here, and those two outlets are working off of that switch as you first come in, and that turns on all the lights everywhere. You even got one up in the loft area, so when you're up there grabbing stuff or digging around looking for something, you can see. We store all the Christmas stuff on that side, and all my woodworking stuff is on this side. So just an overview of the sub panel installation and what it does and what all it feeds to. This is my station where I do a lot of my editing and post some of my videos here to YouTube. And that Ethernet that's critical for doing that is plugged into this laptop here, and don't have to depend on a decent Wi-Fi signal from the house, which if you're doing a lot of videos on YouTube, you know that Wi-Fi is not very good to use when you're uploading or downloading stuff. So just looking over my list here, we covered all the bases. The main power to junction box outside, Christmas lights, regular power, underground pipe run, the sub panel and the circuits, the water feed and the sink, and the Ethernet. So I hope you guys can understand that installing a sub panel isn't a big deal. You just need to follow National Electric Code and make it, your wires and so forth, bigger than what you need, so you don't have any voltage drop or any high current draw because the wire is too little. And keep it simple, and the hardest thing was digging the ditch. Once you get the pipes laid in there and cover it back up, the work is over. The rest is fun, doing all this hookup. So I hope you're encouraged that anybody can, with a little help from looking at videos on YouTube, anybody could do something like this and make your life a little better. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day.